Good afternoon, Rebecca.
Hello.
This is Kim Rodriguez. We're Skyping you from Southampton High School, and we are thrilled to have Wagner College online and to hear all about what you have to offer for our students and students across the country. So if you want to introduce yourself so we get your, your title and the capacity that you serve at Wagner.
Okay, perfect. So I'm Rebecca Kruge. I'm the admissions counselor here for the areas of Long Island, Brooklyn, Queens, and the Pacific Northwest. I started here about a year ago after I moved back to New York City, so I've had about a cycle under my belt, so I can definitely speak to the process a little bit better and smoother than I would have in the fall. So
Great.
yeah, absolutely. So should I go ahead and get started?
Yeah, you might as well.
Okay, all right, perfect. And Maria, what are you interested in studying?
Pre-med.
Pre-med, okay, perfect. So what I'll do is I'll kind of just do a general presentation on the college, and then I'll talk a little bit more about the pre-med program too, so you have a little bit better of an understanding there. So Wagner College, we are considered to be a small, private, liberal arts college. So let's articulate on each of those areas. So in terms of our size, we're about 1,800 undergraduate students and about 200 graduate students. So what that breaks down to is about a 14-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio and about 25 students on average in every class. What's nice about that is we actually cap our classes at 30, and we have all our classes taught by actual professors, and we don't have any graduate assistants or teachers' assistants teaching classes. So you're really getting a one-on-one perspective with the faculty, and also you're able to kind of feel like you're able to participate in class, join in class discussions, and really have that ability to connect to the fellow students as well as your professor. So certainly for some students it seems a little too small. Other students, they might be looking for a small institution. It's really going to be personal preference for what you like, what you feel you're comfortable with, how you learn. So that's why I always recommend coming to visit campus to see if it's something you like. So even though we have a smaller student enrollment, we have a good-sized campus here. So we have about 115 acres. We are kind of a full residential campus, so about 85% of our students do live on campus here at Wagner. What's nice about that is we are located in New York City, but we still have campus. So we still have things like trees and a quad. We have areas where you're able to walk from your dorm to your building, but you're still on campus. You're not having to leave or go take a train or anything. So again, that's going to be a personal preference. A little bit about the borough of Staten Island. So it is a pretty residential borough. So around campus, you'll find things like a lot of apartments, houses. If you go down the road, we have things like a gas station, Dunkin' Donuts. So it's pretty much just you're in the campus. So what's nice about that is it's almost like this oasis in New York City. If you're interested in going to the city, it's actually very accessible. So we have a free shuttle which takes you down to the ferry station, which is also free, and then that puts you in Manhattan in about 35 minutes. So considering it's free and considering it's not that much time, a lot of students will elect to go there on weekends or after class. We get dinner during the weekends because it is so accessible and because there are so many things to do in New York City. I feel like it's impossible to be bored with the things that happen on campus as well as the things that you could do in New York City. So that's a little bit about our location. Do you have any questions about our location?
No.
Feeling good? Okay, all right. So let's talk a little bit about our academics, our programs, what we offer. So we are a liberal arts college, like I mentioned before. What that means is that in addition to your classes that you'll take for your major, you're also going to be taking classes across the discipline. So a lot like high school where you take a math class, a science class, English, but you have a little bit more flexibility in choosing what you want to do with those classes. So if you're taking an English class, you may want to take composition, you might want to take American literature, so you have some flexibility there. But every student here will do that curriculum of liberal arts regardless of their major. Usually you'll take those credits within the first 2 years, and the way we structure our liberal arts education is through the Wagner Plan. So with our Wagner Plan, we basically break up your education into 3 main components. So your first year, what you'll do, and this is across every single student, you will take a learning community. So a learning community consists of 3 different classes. A writing tutorial, 2 classes you will need for your general education, and an experiential component. So it sounds kind of confusing when I put it that way, so I like to give an example. So the example I like to give is one of our freshman learning communities is called Being Human. It takes an introduction to anthropology class and an introduction to business class. And what that does is they talk about in each class, biology class, they talk about what it means to be human from each perspective. So you're really getting an idea, hey, from an anthropologist stance, what does it mean to be human? From a biologist stance, and you're kind of debating back and forth between those two classes while still learning the subject and still learning the content area. Something that's really nice about that is it's the same 30 students in each of the 3 classes. So you're really getting to make a connection to the college very quickly. And then what those students did is they had a field experience where they went into Manhattan into a health clinic, and they sat down with someone, a health professional, and talked about what it means to be human from a health standpoint. So you being interested in pre-med, that might be a learning community that might be of interest to you. And with that, it really just kind of helps prepare you for future classes, how to kind of prepare for college coursework, discussion-based, project-based, working with others. And it also helps make those general education credits that sometimes seem like you're just checking off a box a little bit more practical, either professionally or personally. So that would be your first year of the Wagner plan. The second year takes place in your intermediate year. So that would be either your sophomore or junior year. You have the option to do another one of those learning communities, or you also have the option to study abroad. If you're interested in studying abroad, we have a couple different options there. So we have half-year programs, we have full-year programs, and then we have a program called Expand Your Horizons, which basically allows you to study at Wagner class for an entire semester, and then go abroad for 2 weeks with that class to study in an international place what you learned in the classroom. So for example, we have a chemistry class that goes to Bangladesh. They study water chemistry and kind of directly apply the principles that they learned in the classroom to some real world experience. A lot of students here like that Expand Your Horizons options because it's not the full semester, it's not a half, full year. They're still, if they're active on campus with clubs or their major, it's not like they have to be away for the entire semester. They have that option to kind of do an abbreviated trip, but still have that experience. So that's your intermediate year. The last kind of part of the Wagner plan is your senior year. So the first semester of your senior year, you'll be working on some type of either research or writing component thesis. So you're going to be writing about basically everything that you've learned in college with your major, tying it all together so you can really kind of reflect on what you've learned. The second part of your senior year is you're actually required to do an internship, regardless of your major. These internships range in how many hours, but at minimum, the students are doing 100 hours. What's really nice and quite strategic about that is you're taking on an internship right before, if you're looking to go into the job market, you're making contacts, you're networking, you have something fresh on your resume. When you graduate, you have all these great connections and you're kind of ready to attack the job world. If perhaps you're looking, like in your case, to go to medical school or to graduate school, it's really good because you can pursue a research opportunity for your internship. You can maybe shadow someone in the medical profession. So then you're able to have this kind of unique experience on your resume and you're ready to kind of apply to these schools with something that's a little bit unique to maybe another student applying. So that's a little bit about the Wagner plan. So that's something that's a commonality. Every student does it. And that would be in addition to your general education requirements and also your major requirements. On campus, we have about 50 different majors. Typically, we range from anywhere from the kind of general liberal art majors, such things as anthropology, history, and then we have things like pre-professional programs, pre-health, pre-medical, pre-dental, pre-vet, and then we also have things in the professional field, so things like education, nursing, business. So we have a lot of different strong programs, and it just really depends on what you're interested in pursuing. Probably most popular on campus, I would say things in the health sciences, things like biology, chemistry, nursing, PA. Also popular business, education. So it's really a quite cool campus there's just so many different types of majors that you can really get involved in a lot of different things. So I guess that kind of brings me to what there is to do on campus, living, all that good stuff. So in terms of living on campus, we do guarantee housing all 4 years. We do also have one residence hall for freshmen that elect to live on campus. It's 14 floors. So again, we're trying to get you really connected to the college right away. You're going to be with freshmen only in that building, so you're able to really meet a lot of people quickly. We have over 60 different clubs and organizations, things ranging from pre-professional societies, educational groups, interest groups. Really, there's a lot of student government activities, speakers, fun things to do on campus. So there's always something going on. And then we also do have Greek life on campus. It's about 10%, so it's not the only presence on campus, but it is a presence if you're interested in joining it. Other kind of big things on campus, we are Division I athletics, so we do offer, all our sports are Division I. So a lot of times students will go to football games, basketball games, and get involved that way because being such a small school in Division I, you know, your roommate might be an athlete, a classmate might be an athlete, so you want to go out and you want to support them and see them play. So that's something that's big on campus. We also are known for our theater program as well. It's very competitive and very strong. They put on about 4 musicals a year, and they also do about 4 different black box productions. So that's a popular option for students as well to kind of go and learn a little bit more and see different plays and kind of have that experience. The kids are so talented. It's one of my favorite things to do here. Trying to think what else. Went over Greek life, all of that, sports, and then certainly like we were talking before, if you know there's something that's not happening on campus, there's always something happening in Manhattan. So it's so quick to just jump the free shuttle to the ferry and go right in. So that's a little bit about campus life, academics. Before we go on to admission, kind of financial aid, that type of presentation, do you have any questions on anything that was presented?
No.
Okay, feeling good, very good. And I will say, with that,
Are freshmen required to live on campus?
they are not.
Okay.
So about 85% will. We do have a commuter population from Staten Island and Brooklyn,
Okay.
but typically past that, most of the students do live on campus.
Right. I mean, certainly nobody from Southampton would be driving into Staten Island.
No, I would hope not. That would be crazy. So great question.
What's your percentage of students from out of state? I mean, obviously you're in state for us, but
Right.
what's your demographics as far as in state and out of state?
60% out of state, 40% in state.
Oh, okay.
I had a question. What percent of students that take the pre-med program get into med school?
Did you hear that question? She said, what percentage of pre-med students get into med school?
I'm not quite sure of the actual percentage for that. What I can say is that usually the students that are pre-med are required to have a 3.3 average to work with the department, and then once you're with the department, they will kind of like your guidance counselor helps you now with preparing for college, you know, getting your recommendations and everything. Both the pre-med faculty as well as the career center will work very closely with you. I know we do have about 20% of our students who elect to go on to graduate school, so we do have success there, but I don't unfortunately have the specific number for pre-med. And that's always something, if you're ever here on campus, you could always check in with our career center about.
Okay.
So 20% going to grad school, that's 20% of the overall population?
Yes.
Right,
correct.
okay. Okay.
Good questions. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about kind of admission requirements, what we look for, deadlines and everything. So we just moved this year to an early action system. So that's the non-binding type. Our early action deadline this past year, and it looks like it's going to be the same for next year, was December 1st.
Okay.
So what's nice about that is if you apply by December 1st, we were able to let students know by January 15th whether they had been admitted, and then also if they qualified for a scholarship, which scholarship they qualified for. So that's the first deadline. The regular decision deadline is February 15th, so if you need a little bit more time your senior year in preparing your applications, that's certainly a great deadline too. We don't have anything where, you know, if you apply regular decision, it's going to affect anything in terms of scholarship. We're looking at everyone the same. It's just kind of a benefit to those students that apply earlier to find out a little bit earlier. We are a small school, we are a small office, so what that really enables us to do is really do a holistic review on every student. So we're looking at everything you send us, from your essay, your activities, your letters of recommendation, your high school transcripts, and then your SAT or ACT scores. We are a test optional school. The only program we're not test optional for is our PA program. but every other program you don't have to send your test scores to be considered for admission or for scholarship.
Okay.
So if you feel like your academic record in high school kind of speaks to you more as a student than your test scores, it's not something that's necessary to complete your application. We do also do interviews if a student is interested. Typically, if we feel that you need an interview, we will reach out to you. Maybe you've had a grade that didn't go so well, and you want to explain that a little bit better, or you just want to supplement your application file. An interview is always recommended in that sense. I will mention too, since I know you're not interested in theater or PA, but those deadlines are both December 1st as well. So I just want to mention that since maybe another student that watches this, so December 1st for the theater program as well as the PA program, because there's an additional interview for the PA program and an audition for the theater program. So kind of along those lines of admission, so scholarships, financial aid, and everything. Our tuition as of next year, so for the 2015-2016, is around $42,000, and the room and board's around $13,000. So that would be without any type of merit aid, financial aid, scholarships, or anything. So there's a couple different ways you can get scholarships. The first is the one I mentioned, which is merit aid. So that's based on that entire application file that we just talked about, and those scholarships range anywhere from $10,000 to $25,000 a year, and they're renewable every year. So if you get, let's say, a $15,000 scholarship, you're going to have $15,000 freshman through senior year, which is nice. The second way is we do also offer athletic scholarships for students that play a sport, and that's through athletics. So they will kind of contact you and work with you through that process. And the third way is we also have a scholarship for our music program. So if you play an instrument, we have a scholarship through our band program. We have a scholarship through our music department. And then we also have a musical theater talent scholarship. So there's a couple different ways, depending on what you want to major, that you might be able to get an additional scholarship in addition to that merit aid. And then the second half will be filing your financial paperwork. So that will, we only require the FAFSA. So that is just going based off your financial records, your family's financial records, and just going into that a little bit more with our financial aid office. And then we package grants, so anything that we have in-house with Wagner money you don't have to pay back. Loans, we do package for unsubsidized and subsidized loans. And then any type of work study, federal funding, state funding, so that'll kind of go in through with your federal financial aid package. But you will need to file that paperwork in order to be eligible for that. Okay, so I did a lot of talking. Does anyone have any questions?
So, do you have, although your test optional, do you have a profile of the median, the average test scores for people who did submit and grade point average?
So we haven't calculated it for this past admission cycle, but based on last year, around 88 average, and then about a 1750 SAT, all three parts, or 26 ACT.
Okay, great. Have you given any thought to the redesigned SAT and what you're going to do with that?
Yeah, we haven't really sat down too much. I'm guessing that's going to be, from what I hear, a big project of ours over the summer.
Yes.
No, we have some time and some breathing room to just kind of figure out what we want to do with that and how we're going to calculate it. You know, I think it's always, you know, if you break down our sections, usually like a 580 in each section. So between the critical reading and the math there. But it'll be interesting for sure to see how, you know, that works, and I feel bad for the students that have to kind of be on that borderline, but it seems like it'll be a little bit better of a test, so we'll see.
Yes, we will see. Do you track demonstrated interest?
We do, yes. So again, because we are such a small office, I love hearing from my students, and it is something that we definitely make note of, and it really does help a lot. I can say that this year I went to some visits and I met some students on the road that really kind of impressed me, kept in touch, and that was something that really I remembered and kind of noted on their application file when I was reading it. So, and those are students that we'd love to have here too.
Great. So one of the things that I've been doing after these Skype sessions is I will send you the names and email addresses of the students who participated. Right. So that way you can keep that for your record if you can consider this you know, like an admissions session. Absolutely. And that way they have, you know, you have information for your data too, so that you know, you can kind of say who you met with during this time frame.
That'd be great.
We did have another student come in. What are you interested in studying?
My name's Ivana, and I'm interested in pre-med.
Okay,
Pre-med.
also.
Great, perfect. So we talked a little bit about the pre-med program before. Just very generally, so it's a pre-professional track, so it's usually about 4 to 5 courses that you'll take that will help prepare you for medical school, the MCAT, and kind of, it's a track to keep you like where people are helping you prepare for medical school. They're making sure that you're have the courses you need, that are helping you with like scheduling, testing, and everything. So that's why it's really helpful. Typically, the students with pre-med that will major either in biology or chemistry. Within our chemistry department, we do have concentrations in biochem, environmental chem. So you certainly could major in anything, but certainly a hard science-based major is always something that they recommend.
You guys have any questions? So you know that they're in Staten Island, and okay. Do you have any suggestions for a student who might be just kind of on the fringe, how they could really get your attention and demonstrate that they are really interested in Wagner?
Yeah, I would definitely say putting a lot of time into the application. So especially things like the essay, and I always suggest to students that might have had either, like a bad year or a bad grade, there's a section that they now put in the Comment App that asks, is there something on your application that there wasn't a spot for, but you would like to mention? And I've had students that put stuff there, and that's helpful because sometimes we might look at a grade and say, oh, it's not a great grade, we don't know why. If the student explains it in that context, or they explain, hey, I was sick, or I had this going on in my life, sometimes that really helps us and to start a conversation with the student, perhaps invite them to interview, and really kind of go over a little bit more. And then certainly for every territory, our information is always listed on the website. So just, dropping an email, asking kind of good quality questions, like we just talked about the interest, that really helps too, because if we know you want to be here, us as your admissions counselors, we're really your advocates. So when we bring your application file and we're going to our second read, we can really push for you and say why you want to be here, and that really helps us a lot to help you.
Do you have any additional essays as a requirement other than the standard Common App?
We don't have any essays. It's kind of built into our member page now, but when they add us as a school, it'll ask if you have ever visited and list like your top 3 reasons why you chose to apply to Wagner. So again, that's stuff we like to read. If you haven't visited, it's not really a problem. We just like to know about your visit if you have. And then certainly the 3 things that you like about Wagner, we really like to read those because that's a lot of times where we can really gauge your interest level there.
Okay, great. I think you've done a pretty good job to cover.
Excellent.
Can't think of any other questions unless you guys have any questions. Any other interesting things on the weekends, or what's the best kept secret about Wagner?
Best kept secret? Oh, that's a good question. I really, a lot of the families that I talk to that their children come here or they come here, they always tell me to stop selling the school because they love it so much. They don't want it to get more popular and become popular. So that's always something that I think is always funny, that they're just always telling me, stop telling people about it. But I really think it's just kind of a hidden gem in the sense. A lot of people, when they think about New York City, don't really consider us as an option, but when they come visit us, they see like all that we have to offer, a beautiful campus, and they're just kind of sold. We have beautiful views too of the skyline and everything, so that always usually really solidifies it when people come to campus.
I would think so.
Yeah.
All right, I guess that's pretty much it.
Okay.
All right, I really appreciate you being willing to jump in and try this out with us, and hopefully we'll be talking with you in the future.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.